Hello, welcome back to Behind the Faders, the live sound channel. Today I want to talk about what it takes to be a sound engineer on a corporate show. And I want to start with a question because a few months ago I saw a video by somebody else about this topic. And his first point was you should be ready to record people on site, like announcements or statements to use later in the show. And I have to disagree with that personally because in over 30 years, I once had a request like that. And I was just asked whether I could do it. I wasn't told to do it. So I could have said no with no further consequences. So if you have some experience in corporate show, does this happen to you on a regular basis? I mean, of course, there's nothing wrong with being prepared for that or being able to do it, but I wouldn't call it a priority. All right, first thing, before you accept your first job on a corporate show, be sure to be good and quick with mixing speech, because speech will be your biggest challenge most of the time. You might have unrehearsed speakers, bad speakers, a lot of speakers, all kinds of speech. So make sure you have some experience with that already. And talking about speech, the masterclass in mixing speech is not a conference, it's not a gala. The masterclass are shareholders meetings. Because in shareholders meetings, there will always be a part where any shareholder can sign up for 10 minutes of giving his opinion. So stepping up to a microphone and having his 10 minutes of fame in the spotlight. And the tricky thing is that on a shareholders meeting, it is legally relevant if everybody understands what's being said. If afterwards people complain they couldn't understand everything that was being said, in the worst case, the company will have to repeat the entire meeting. And you might imagine what that means for your career. And if it's just a fairly small company, it's not such a big deal because it will, most of the time, this will be held in maybe a conference room in a hotel or so. There will be maybe 5 or 6 people speaking. So that's not so bad. But if it comes to the big boys, oh man. I did the shareholders meeting of Deutsche Bank, so one of the biggest shareholders meetings in Germany, in one of the most challenging arenas in Germany, which is the Festhalle in Frankfurt, for 15 years in a row. And Deutsche Bank always managed to make a mistake a few weeks before the shareholders meetings. So this part of the show where all these shareholders came to the microphone and talked would last for hours and hours and hours. So shareholders meetings are a thing on their own. So be careful if you get asked to do a shareholders meeting. But anyway, knowing how to deal with speech is a very important factor in any kind of corporate show. Now, when you prepare your file, make sure you use an auto mixer on all these channels. I think that's an auto mixer of some kind in any kind of desk nowadays. And make sure to insert the auto mixer post fader, because if you do it pre fader, then a signal from somebody who's not even on stage and the fader's down and the channel's muted, but he still affects the auto mixer and he will override other speakers on stage just being on the phone somewhere outside. So make sure your auto mixer is post fader. And also prepare a bus for each type of microphone. So one bus for handhelds, one bus for headsets, one bus for clip mics. So what I always do, I prepare some basic EQ, so a low cut and a high cut on these buses before I even touch the channels. Just makes your workflow a bit quicker on site. Also, I would always prepare one DCA with all the mics for emergency. But other than that, keep it simple. So no crazy insert monsters, no multi-band compressors, and the compressor and the de-esser only on standby. I mean, if you find out you have extensive rehearsals from some speakers, you can always implement more advanced plugins or something later on. But in preparation, just leave them aside for now. Next thing is you will most likely be asked to play some music or jingles or anything. And sometimes on very short notice. A good example is somebody finds out that somebody else has his birthday on that day, and they will come to you and ask you to play Happy Birthday, but of course only the chorus. So you should have a software that you know well and you're quick with editing something and firing some audio files. I use QLab for that. I find it easy to use. The smallest version is free. You can edit quickly. So QLab is a good software for this. Also, you should have some different playlists for walking music or for intervals, for breaks. I know that many people these days just use some Spotify playlist that they stream. I personally like to be offline during events, and that goes back to many years ago when, luckily only during a rehearsal, I had my computer and the audio channels from the computer were just open, even though I wasn't playing anything at that moment. And all of a sudden there was this loud voice over the PA saying, "Bing, you got mail." And I got traumatized by that. And even knowing that it can't happen nowadays anymore, I just like to be offline during events. That's just me. So I will have some playlists in my Apple Music that I can play for walk-in or other occasions. Next thing is be ready to record. And I don't mean the thing that I talked about at the beginning, not recording somebody, just recording the show or parts of the show. And even if you don't record yourself, you might need to send a recording feed somewhere else. Maybe very often on bigger shows, it's the video department that records the show. So you will have to send them a feed. And when you send them a recording feed, or if you send any other feed, like for interpreters or whatever it is, don't just send a copy of your left and right. For all other matters than your live sound, it's a lot better if you bring up all the speech against all kind of audio signals like music or jingles. So not just a matrix, but an accent that you can actually mix. And it also helps to put a compressor on that feed. And last but not least, be prepared for an impossible front of house position. Somewhere in the far corner of the room, far away from the stage, or underneath a balcony, or on top of a balcony, but way back. That happens very often, because if possible, people shall not see you. So bring a pair of monitors that you know well, bring a pair of headphones that you know well, and bring some sort of router and some remote software for your desk. So at least during your rehearsals, you can mix from a better position than where you are with your desk. And that's all I can think of. Comments and questions in the comment section. If you have a lot of questions or a special set of questions, consider booking yourself a coaching call. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give me a like and everything. You know the deal. I'll see you around. Bye-bye.